Oke, sahabat Klima, selamat sore. Sore ini kita akan melanjutkan podcast kita. Kita kedatangan Professor Richard Jones dari UK Met Office. Dan beliau adalah IPCC Lead Author Working Group 1. Nanti kita akan bertanya sedikit tentang perubahan iklim, terutama proyeksi perubahan iklim yang yang berdasarkan laporan IPCC. So, Prof. Richard Jones, I may say your name as Professor Richard. So you are a visiting professor in Oxford University, right?
Yes, in the geography department, yes.
And also the lead author for the working group 1 for the IPCC.
I was one of the coordinating lead authors of the Atlas chapter in the working group 1 report. I was also one of the coordinators of one of the sections of the technical summary, and importantly I was part of a handshake group between working group 1 and working group 2 within the IPCC 6th assessment report.
Okay, so beliau adalah sangat expert di dalam IPCC dan laporan IPCC, maka kita akan bertanya. I have a couple of questions maybe for you. So in 2021, the IPCC released the new report, annual report 6, AR-6. What are some of the key advances from the last report comparing to the previous report in AR-5?
There are quite a wide range of new set of findings in the AR-6 report. So I was involved in the Working Group 1 report, which was released in 2021. And in that report, there was a much greater focus on regional information. We had 4 chapters in the report that was looking at how climate extremes were changing or have been changing in the past and will change in the future. We also had another chapter which looked very specifically on a series of climatic impact drivers, and so these are elements of the climate system which are relevant to assessing risks and adaptation to climate change. So this is why I mentioned that we had a close relationship with Working Group 2, which assessed adaptation and impacts of climate change. And so we developed in Working Group 1 a lot of information at the regional scale which was relevant to that impact and risk assessment. Some of the new findings in terms of regional changes are that we are already seeing significant changes in many aspects of the climate in every region of the world. We are also, it's very clear that the range and the intensity and the diversity of those changes will increase very significantly in the future as the climate continues to warm. So these are some of the new findings compared to the last assessment report. We also see in the current assessment report that the amount of change that we're seeing in all elements of the climate system, so that's from the oceans to the cryosphere to what's happening on the land and in the atmosphere, that these are larger than we reported in the previous assessment report, and that in a historical context we can see that these are unprecedented in many thousands and in some cases many millions of years.
Regarding the IPCC approach, in the past in AR-5 they used the RCP approach. It is the radiative forcing that transforms into the kind of concentration pathways. But now in the new report it introduced SSP, the socio-economic pathways. What a big difference between the two?
As far as the climate outcomes, there is very little difference between the RCP framework and the SSP framework. So both frameworks, the pathways of the emissions are quite similar. The outcomes in terms of the impact on the amount of warming and then the other consequent climate changes around the world are very similar between the two. The main difference is in the SSPs, the shared socio-economic pathways. There's a much closer link between the way that the world will evolve from a socio-economic point of view, and the emissions that result of that, and then the climate change that results from that. So it's much easier to couple the future climate changes with future changes in things like population and energy use and land use, and so we can get a much more integrated view of the future in terms of both climate change and its implications for people and for ecosystems.
And next question is that in every release, the report, it always contains the summary report for policymaker. How can the findings from the IPCC assessment can be used for the policymaker? And do you think that there will be kind of not only used by the policymaker, but also for the broader audience? Yeah, not only the policymakers. Yes.
So I think, going back to your first question, I think in terms of the policymaker audience, the AR-6 was again more successful than previous reports, because if you look at the outcome of the Glasgow COP and the Glasgow Pact, very, very clear language in there which is taken directly from the Working Group 1 report, and the importance of using the best available science, which is what is assessed within the IPCC report, is written in to these important texts from the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So certainly from a policymaker perspective, I think that we are doing an even better job, but also there was a very, very significant focus in IPCC this time that we communicated with a much broader set of audiences. Mm-hmm. So we developed additional knowledge products that looked at implications of climate change in different regions. In Working Group 2, they did a similar exercise looking at the implications, again, for impacts in regions, also in different sectors of the economy. And we also generated what we called a summary for all, which was a very sort of very clear, plain language version of the summary for policymakers. It was aimed at a much broader audience. So it was there for the general public. It was something that would be very easily picked up by the media, something that could be used in schools. So we really aimed at going to a much wider audience than I think the previous reports had done.
Even to the community level?
I would like to think that we are able to communicate to the community level. Certainly a lot of the people who are involved in the generation of the reports, they certainly understand the importance of that. So for example, the work that we are doing here, some of the examples I've been giving to the workshop here has been how we have been interacting with communities in informal settlements, in developing countries, cities, how we've been understanding their problems, how we've been communicating these very robust findings about climate change, and how that they can use that information when they are trying to understand how to adapt to climate change in their region. So yes, I think the information is able to be communicated at that level, and I think we are increasingly doing so.
So the last question, Prof. Richard, how do you ensure wider uptake of IPCC findings?
So I think the initiatives that we've been taking with this report and the findings and making them more broadly applicable, I think we need to do more of that. I think that as we came to the end of the development of these assessments, that we became ourselves very aware of how important it was to communicate to everybody, essentially, and I think that is an understanding that will go into the next assessment cycle. And right from the very start, so very early on in the sixth assessment cycle, we had people coming in to help us with how to communicate, how to present the results, how to draw very effective figures. And I think we are embedding that sort of thinking in the IPCC now, and I think we will just be doing more of that in future assessment cycles.
Oke, thank you. Ya, tadi itu adalah gambaran dari Prof. Richard bagaimana penemuan-temuan baru laporan ilmiah terbaru yang sudah dirilis oleh IPCC bisa digunakan secara lebih luas oleh tidak hanya dalam skala nasional, akan tetapi juga sampai ke skala di bawah itu provinsi, kabupaten, bahkan sampai ke level komunitas. Dan diharapkan bahwa semua yang dihasilkan temuan-temuan di dalam IPCC itu bisa diimplementasikan berupa aksi-aksi iklim dalam setiap negara memenuhi ambisi untuk menurunkan emisi gas rumah kaca dan juga pemanasan global tidak lebih dari 1,5 hingga 2 derajat. Thank you very much for Professor Richard for your coming, and it is nice conversation about the IPCC finding with the lead author of the IPCC report AR-6. And we hope that you have a fruitful workshop in Indonesia, and I hope that you enjoy the weather in Indonesia.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to you. And I would just like to say thank you very much to the Institute for how welcoming you have been, and what an excellent workshop we've been having here with you. So
you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Kebijakan.